And we are live. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, wherever it is you are in the world, and welcome to Vampire the Masquerade, the YouTube experience, Euster City. This evening we find the Ductus Pro Tempore, Alex Corba, in tow with Jacob Burns, Remy White, and Bitta, her lovely little assistant. Jacob and Alex are ahead of the other two, sort of walking, conversing in front of them to themselves. Alex very much taking on something of an adoptive sire position to Bitta, or at least a mentor position, while Mr. Burns has definitely taken it, or is obviously, as the sire to Remy, his mentor. And the two converse. This is where we start our scene. Alex stands walking towards towards the courtyard of the church, moving some hair back out of her face, and she looks over to Jacob. So, I suppose you understand the score this evening, correct? We're going to enlighten our little ones.
Oh, yes, this needs to be done. I don't need another smiling Jack figure coming down in my pack. Nope. We must make them the soldiers that Cain deserves.
Alex will sort of look away and roll her eyes as the words soldiers of Cain run off Jacob's lips, but she then turns back with a smile. Well, I think this is as good a place as I need to start. There's such human emotion still tied up with the clergy. And, well, we'll see how long it takes them to truly accept what they are, what monsters they've become. And with that, Alex will look over her shoulder back at Bitta and just give a very toothy grin, kind of baring her fangs just ever so slightly.
Jacob is going to turn to me and just give him a good pat on the back. Son, you'll do me proud.
I'll try.
Remy, my good boy. Remy, I have a favor to ask you.
Yes?
She points at a cable along the side of the church. I need you to take care of that first. And then I want you to go around and use whatever means you deem necessary, whether it be bars, chairs, whatever, to make sure these exits are blocked. Make sure that there's not any way out except for this front door.
Yeah, Randy points at his waist where there's a chain wrapped around it.
That'll work well enough. Let's just ensure that the guests inside can't make a run for it. It becomes problematic, even though I think a few of us here are rather swift on their feet.
Jacob will lean over to Remy. If you must, steal one of those cars and run them down, if for some reason they get out.
I don't have any worse. I still have to look for car keys in the car. I guess I'm going to use the Tenebration 3 to make armor the best to reach up to the cable and pull it loose.
Right. That's fine, well enough. I don't think we need to roll for that particular bit.
I have 4 manipulation and 3 occult. And
yeah, you'd be fine with that. You'd be able to summon at least one arm up there to fuck that shit out. As Remy goes on and begins to work on the building, Alex will turn to Bitta and kind of usher her over.
Bitta slinks over, her shoulders are perked up, ready to please Alex. What can I do for you, madam?
She'll place one arm over Bitta's shoulders and kind of just very gently run her fingers through Bitta's hair. She points up to the church with kind of a lazy finger in the other hand. She licks her lips once. You see this place here?
Bitta stares. Yes, I do.
This place is about to become a garden. A garden of wonderful and blissful suffering. You remember what I told you about suffering, how it frees us?
Bitta perks up. Yes.
I'm going to free you of those shackles of humanity tonight, one way or the other. Until you are the monster that I know you are, we're not leaving here. I don't care if we have to drag in vagrants off the street until the wee hours of the pre-dawn. We're going to make this happen.
I look forward to it as she stares up with Alex, to Alex with big eyes. This humanity is really starting to get at me. Please, the guilt, this heavy feeling, I must be rid of it. And I know one way or another, Alex, you will get it out of me.
And with that, Alex just kind of smiles as she reaches down to the waistband of her jeans and pulls out the blade, her own knife, and just hands it over to Bitta. Keep that close. You're going to need it tonight.
Bitta receives the knife and says, anything for you, Alex. She holds it behind her back. Quite strong, quite fair.
And at that point, Alex will look over at Jacob and just kind of smile with this, again, the shit-eating grin that she's known for. I do believe our little ones are going to be very useful. What do you think, Jake?
Yes. From the day I met Bitta, I saw all her potential, and Remy, he came recommended well. I have faith in them.
At this, Remy's going to begin making his way to the back of the church to look for a back door.
He'll find one.
I'm going to look for something to block it with, like a board or...
Alright, what you see is you see on the rear of the church some scaffolding, basically to restore some stonework on the side of the church itself, and you see 2x4s laid across the scaffolding. You see kind of a steel chair a la WWE style chair, and you see what looks to be a generator of some kind with a pair of what look to be jumper cables coming off the generator itself. Do me a favor and roll your intelligence plus not technology, but crafts.
I don't have crafts, so I have intelligence 3, so that'd be intelligence. That'd be a roll of 2, right?
Yeah, it'd be a roll of 2. Difficulty... we'll say 7.
I'm going to spend a willpower for it, so I do not want to fuck up.
Alright.
Somebody roll 2 dice for me.
Alright, I got you. My dice stream wasn't low. There we go. 2 successes. Alright, so Remy, you get the idea that while you can definitely block it off with the 2x4, it would probably be much more interesting to do that as well as take those jumper cables, hook them to the metal door handles, and then turn the generator on.
And that's exactly what Remy's going to be working on the back.
And with that, as Jacob seems to kind of walk around the other side of the building to watch Remy work from the shadows, Alex will lead Bitta inside to the church.
Bitta follows Alex, eager to please. What do we get to do now? As she starts to jump with excitement.
As they enter in, the pastor is standing up and preaching of the wonders that are the infinite compassion of Christ, and how all that bathe in his blood shall be saved. And Alex just simply leads Bitta to one of the back pews and looks up as the priest is, or the pastor rather, is speaking, and for all intents and purposes, it seems that he's very charismatic. He can definitely hold a crowd. Seems to be about 10 late night parishioners sitting about with their Bibles in hand and preaching or sort of testifying. Every now and then they'll raise their hand and you'll hear the chorus of mm-hmm and things of that nature. And Alex just sits and watches and observes as she waits for Jacob and Remy to join them.
Maybe after connecting, getting the door blocked, or satisfied that the door's blocked enough, he's going to take jumper cables and begin priming the generator. And he's going to begin pulling on it, the little pull string. I hope the pin didn't strip. It works.
Good lad.
It's going to be fun.
Let's go join our
I want to
sisters.
connect it to the steel bar on the outside. Of course.
So yes, Jacob and Rem make their way around. Once that's completed, and join Alex and Vida in the back pew.
And Alex just sits there and waits as the other two get in, and she just simply looks to Jacob, and as she locks eyes with him, she then rolls her eyes towards the front door, the only other way out of the building.
Yes, Jacob will summon a arm of the abyss, but it will only slither just to the outside, coiling around the doorways on the outside. Don't worry, Alex. I have it covered.
Very well. And with that, Alex pulls the bobby pin out of her hair and lets the black locks kind of billow down around her neck as her eyes begin to take on that almost feral nature, that look of just pure and utter enjoyment of what she's about to do. And she will spend a willpower point at this point to ignore the effects of her derangement of hysteria and schizophrenia for the evening, just because it's quite problematic to have to have a frenzy with a difficulty of 10. She stands up and walks towards the front. People in the pew looking at this woman, perhaps not quite dressed for church. I'm not going to say scantily clad, but not exactly wearing the proper attire for being in amongst the faithful, let's say. Alex walks up, and as the preacher holds out a hand to her, "Ah, sister, you feel the spirit. I can see this child. Come forth." She just kind of smiles very sweetly. "Oh, I do feel the spirit. I feel the spirit of the one that came before all of us. The one true founder of the feast." And with that, she just kind of looks over her shoulder one last time at the three in the rear of the church, and with that just kind of turns her head in a very quick motion, kind of snapping her neck into one direction from right to left. And the sound of almost like a whip cracking can be heard as that long tongue just whips out of her mouth and just catches the pastor just underneath the chin and going almost all the way back to his spinal cord. And as he kind of grabs at his neck, his blood begins to just pour down the front of his shirt and over the white collar. Gargles a few moments before the head actually begins to fall backwards and essentially folds over back, kind of dangling off the back of the body as it stumbles a few times before falling. And at this point, the people erupt in just screaming as they see this act of violence portrayed before them. And as Alex kind of stands there, as the blood kind of sprays over the front of her, she turns about with blood just dripping down that white blouse, and she looks back at all of them.
Alex,
Welcome to my nightmare, little lambs.
when Alex turns back to see, he'll notice that shadow is erupting from within Jacob, and his face is being lost into the shadows, tendrils extending from his abdomen. And you see him being rose up another foot or two. And he says out to the crowd, "Denizens of Luster, time to meet your judgment."
Well spoken, Father Burns, well spoken. You, and she points to an elderly lady sitting at the front who hasn't cleared to the side of the walls, clinging, as people just stand in horror at this creature of shadow in the rear of the church and this blood-covered woman in the front that just murdered their pastor right before them. She points to the old woman as she walks over. You shall be the first. And with that, she reaches into the woman's gray hair and just grabs a clump of it, dragging her down the front aisle towards the pew where Bitta and Remy are sitting. And with that, she just puts all of her strength into the lunge with her arm, tossing the woman into Bitta's lap almost as she makes this sort of disheveled, dust-covered, dust-filled shriek, and just landing squarely in the Toreador's lap. Almost.
Bitta sits back, receiving the woman, looking up at Alex. She says, "A gift for me? Shall I partake?"
No. You're not partaking in this one. I want you to make this one suffer. Use that blade and use it skillfully. I hear that a blade to the liver is quite an excruciating way to die.
I think I see where you're going with that. Bitta looks down at this woman, fearful in the eyes, almost as if she's never going to experience any other pain like this, and she doesn't know how long it's going to happen, but she stares up at this woman, Bitta. Bitta looks down at this woman, and she says, "Oh, I really hope, I really, really, really hope all is well inside my soul after all of this." Bitta takes the knife and slowly drags it down the woman's throat, in between her breasts, and down to the liver. Bitta looks up at Alex and says, "After I stick it in, shall I turn it? Shall I twist to open the wound more?"
Use your best judgment, dear.
Bitta takes the knife, plunges it in deep to the liver, spins it, takes it out, plunges it one more time, and says, "I think I'm done with this one. I can't. This just..." Getting nervous, Bitta shakes off and decides to walk over to a different pew to sit down and contemplate what she had just done.
Remy, Jacob says, "Do me a favor and
Yes.
for just a Bitta there, would you violate that corpse for me? I don't like the way it's just twitching."
Looking down at this woman's corpse, Remy's going to just kind of straddle it just a little.
Alex is going to hold her hand out
willpower.
for just a moment, and she'll look at Remy. No. Jacob, I don't mean to second guess your commands, but this one's already beyond all help. There's no reason to desecrate the body. There's really no point in it.
Are you sure her soul won't be shrieking and crying from the beyond?
That soul left the body the moment that it fell into Billa's arms. Now, I would rather that his first act in that step down the downward spiral that we all have to go through be with a more aware subject, let's say.
Look at him and he's like, I got just the idea. And he looks for the deacon of the church. It's like, get over here, big boy. I got plans for you. Seeing that the deacon's scared shitless, he's gonna begin making his way over to him. He's gonna wrap his arm around him. He's like, well, buddy, say with that, I'm gonna spend a willpower point and do arms the best out of this dude's mouth.
Alright. As you stand, or as he kind of rears back from you, trying to back away and not be involved with you in any way, shape, or form, he really doesn't notice the arm of the abyss coming out of the shadow behind him and going for his mouth. And once it's there, what does it do?
I'm really gonna begin slowly shoving it down his throat, slowly.
Alright, he'll begin to make a sound akin to something one might see in an adult film. However, this one sounds a lot more panicked, and he struggles, but he cannot break away from this as the arm of the abyss continues to go down his throat, and his face begins to turn very red, and his eyes begin to water as he tries to wriggle free, his hands grasping at the shadow, trying to prevent it from going further, but he just seems to be unable to. It's just a fruitless endeavor.
I don't want to keep pushing it down. I'm going to try to impel him on the shadow arm.
As it continues to go down, you'll begin to hear the screams as blood begins to pour out from the corners of his mouth as this gurgling sound begins to just kind of emanate from his body until finally the front of his stomach sort of begins to... The white shirt he's wearing begins to turn to a very deep ruby red before the shadow tendril just breaks its way out of his stomach, and at this point, screaming cries come from the eight remaining parishioners.
I'm going to begin licking the blood off this corpse.
Alright, and I do believe you, sir, need to make a humanity check. How many dice am I
have
rolling?
2 conscious, 2.
2?
Yeah.
Difficulty 8. You are totally fine with what you've just done. You lose a humanity point.
That's a good Remy. Good Remy. Good Remy.
Why can't I roll like that?
Jacob is going to approach Bitta, putting a gentle caressing tendril around her shoulder. Now, Bitta, don't be remorseful for what you stole. God has already judged them. He's just delivering them, helping them along the path. Even
Bitta
if they
looks
don't
at Jacob and says, but why? Why must I feel this guilt? I am not one of them anymore. I don't understand. Why do I feel all of this pain when I hurt one of them?
Alex will kind of snap at her at that point. She won't directly yell at her, but will shoot her a look. And it's something that they've covered a bit in passing before, but Bitta, you're suffering.
I'm sorry, milady, as she quivers down to herself. I will try to be better next time.
Embrace it. In fact, come hither. And she looks at 2 parishioners standing off the side. It looks to be a young couple, one woman in what looks to be the late night equivalent of a sundress, and a man just sort of grasping to her tightly. Alex will walk up to them, and Alex will actually gaze at the man and just lock her gaze with the gentleman's and kind of fixate him with that serpent's gaze as her eyes turn into that of like a viper's. And she just speaks very calmly. Bitta, take this woman, and I want you to flay open her ribcage, right in front of him so he can see.
Bitter takes a deep breath. And anything for you, Alex. I will do what you ask. She takes the knife that she had used on the lady before, and she puts it to the collarbone of this young beautiful woman, and she plunges it in deep.
The woman will reach out and begin to claw at Bitha's eyes, trying to get away, screaming terribly as the blade cuts into her flesh.
Bitta, as she pulls down on the knife, having to force down through the rib cage. The pain and the thought that goes through Bitta's head as she goes through each individual rib, as she slices through this woman, hearing her scream in so much pain and agony, knowing that within seconds she will be dead in her hands. Bitta looks and, with one last jerk, rips down through the rest all the way to her navel and collapses on the floor at this woman's feet and says, "Why? Why? Why do I keep feeling this sorrow?"
Do me a favor and make a humanity roll there. Roll your conscience.
Gotcha. Mm-mm-mm. How many? 2, right?
Yeah, just your conscience, too. Difficulty 8.
7 and 5.
You, however, as you flay this woman alive and most of her lung begins to unfold outwards, you don't feel that remorse as you did. Something inside your head kind of clicks.
Huzzah.
Something worked there. And you suddenly don't feel as encumbered by the guilt as you did before. Almost as if as this woman's life is inconsequential.
So Bitta on her knees at the floor of this woman, she's looking at her hands bloodied, holding this knife, and she realizes, almost as if a snap, that didn't hurt as much. So Bitta looks up at this woman, seeing her inside starting to come out. She almost is intrigued, and she says to herself, "I wonder." So she grabs the knife, lunges it into the woman's stomach once more, and almost with a spaghetti fork starts twirling it around in the woman's stomach, pulling out the intestines and holding them in her hands. She takes one of them, rubs it on her face, looking up at Alex, and says, "Have I done well?"
Alex at this point will break the gaze of the man, and she'll buff her strength up to 6, and just throw a forearm against the man's collarbones, holding him in place. As he's just now broken from her gaze, you can kind of hear him wailing and bawling as his lovely young wife has just been completely ripped apart almost in front of her. And Alex will just kind of smile, look down at Bitta, and kind of cut the bottom of her chin before trying to pull her back up to her feet. "You did well." And she'll look back over at Jacob with a smile.
Jacob will look to Alex and then to Victor. He'll come closer to her and say, there, my friend. You've done a great service to us.
I'm not here to dismiss all that.
Yeah, you get closer to your mic, Bruce.
Oh, sorry. Yes, Jacob will approach Bitta, giving her a pat on the back. You've done us a great service, and a great service for yourself. This is your first step to enlightenment.
Bitta will look up at Jacob with a smile and almost nod as if she has been pleased with her own work.
Oh, Remy, come here for a second.
Yes?
Father Lucas had always told me about the Lutheran movement and how these idolatry Catholics, out of character, we aren't Catholic, church,
I
right?
am.
Yeah, might as well be a Catholic church, yeah.
Okay, yes.
My church is Catholic.
Well, How would you feel about possibly just removing these objects, tearing them down, breaking them? They are poisonous to a person's faith. They're
Actually,
bothering.
I have an idea. As Jacob's speaking, he walks over to the altar looking for the incense burner chain. He's like, "Here we go. Where's that? Where's the choir boys at? We got have a little fun here."
It's late at night. The choir boys have gone home.
Oh, I want to look over to the guy that just got elbowed, and one because his wife got split up. And you'll do. He walks over to this dude. He's gonna do shadow play on the choke on his own shadow at first. And while he's choking, he's gonna angle the incense burner right above him, one of his eyes, and just drop it on
All right, go ahead and roll your conscience again there. 2 dice.
him. Yeah.
Sick fuck. You passed that one. You kind of feel guilty about that as the incense, like the hot coals of the incense, fall into the guy's eyes. And he literally starts wailing, screaming. Not now out of sorrow, but out of just sheer agony. And at this, Bitta and Jacob and Remy will just see Alex's eyes just widen. And you can almost just see her kind of squirming a bit where she's standing as she just licks her lips. And she just seems to be taking it all in. And at this point, one of the younger members, a young man of the congregation, makes a running dash for the back door, and as he gets to the back door, and his hands grab a hold of the metal bars to try and pull these doors towards him to open them. Immediately, he grabs a hold of them, and his body goes rigid, and you just hear this kind of, like this grunting almost, as his body just kind of tightens and goes rigid, and he continues to stand there just horsing and unable to let go, and his eyes are bulging, and at a point, you begin to kind of see his eyes just fix. And you begin to smell a very peculiar smell. One that, one might akin to waking up into a house where breakfast is being cooked. For a moment. Until
Dead.
until the smell until the
Sort of fried meat, I'm sure.
pretty much.
Yeah, just burning flesh.
But that all. Go ahead, Bruce.
You said human, that's what's for dinner.
Looks like we're serving up long pork tonight, boys and girls. And at this point, the man's ears begin to bleed as his eardrums burst, and then the smoke begins to fizzle out from his hair before his head catches fire. And he just continues to stand there as he begins to spark here and there. As he's basically being cooked alive, he just can't let go of this high voltage, high amp from the construction generator.
Oh my god.
Do I need to roll my conscience again because that was my handiwork?
Sure, why not? Go for it.
Two.
You feel really terrible about it, Remy. That whole instance there where you just watch that guy literally seize up and as he basically roasts alive, you just feel terrible.
Just like shit, dude. Like shit. Yeah.
Don't worry, Remy. Don't worry. Next time, I'm sure you'll get them to explode right away.
Oh, but I wanted them to explode now. I can still make them explode, but there wouldn't be no point in it now.
Well, try it on another one. There's plenty more.
There's still, let's see, we killed one. old lady, the guy, the wife, the other dude. We've still got we've still got 6 more. We got 6 more people to work with here, people.
Ooh.
Well,
Leave alive.
Remy's going to look for the nearest survivor. He's
Yep.
just going to knock it down to the floor and straddle his chest. He's going to pop his neck and begin skinning the dude's face off.
Oh, I know, guys. How about we do our own impromptu baptismal? Let's get a bucket of water. Remy, you put him inside the water.
Oh, I got you. There's a baptism over there. It begins dragging his
There's
breathing
there
over
is a
his
cistern.
Wait,
There's
how
a
many
cistern.
people are left? Like, what kind of people are left?
Okay, there are. Let's see. There's another elderly couple.
Okay.
There are 2 kind of single old ladies standing around. One middle-aged guy and a hobo.
Okay. I have an idea. Can I call dibs on the old couple?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay. All right. Yeah. All right. So, I want to do this now. All right. So, Bitta puts her eyes onto the elderly couple that's sitting the third pew in. Seeing them in complete and utter fear, she realizes, I might be able to prove myself tonight. Actually, I might be able to prove myself tonight indeed. So she grabs the elderly couple and she decides she wants to go up to the bell tower. And with this couple, she grabs the old lady by the back of the hair and drags her, knowing that the husband is going to follow, trying to save his wife. And Bitta grabs her and starts dragging her up towards the top, very top of the bell tower.
Alex will basically use an elbow to crush the man's skull that she was holding up against the wall because, well, his eyes are burned out at this point. He's fucked. And she'll walk behind the elderly man who's kind of hobbling along, just going, no, not Betty, not Betty, not Betty, please, not my Betty.
The Bitta looks back at this old blathering fool. Betty, oh Betty, oh Betty. Betty's gonna be in a better place soon, Bitta says, as she starts bringing her up further and further to the bell tower. You want to see what Betty can do? I'm going to make Betty fly high. You want to join her? She starts dragging her higher and higher up into the bell tower.
No, please, no. And they continue to go up the steps. Not my Betty. Not my Betty.
Bitta gets to the very, very top. She takes the rope used to ring the bell in the bell tower and she starts wrapping it around Betty's neck. Oh, you want your Betty? Do you want to fly with your Betty? She pulled up about 20 feet of the rope after she tied it around her neck. You want to see your Betty? Come, grab her hand, see what you can do. She gives Betty's hand to her husband and she lets go of Betty. Hold on to your wife. Let's see how long you last before both of you fall to your death.
Alright, I'm going to roll some fate dice here. Alright, for Betty, what happens to Betty? Betty manages to hold her footing, but what about Bob? Bob is able to hold on, and basically the 2 of them are he's struggling. His old, brittle bones and his arthritic hands are trying to hold Betty and keep her from falling. And he's putting all of his might, and he's finding the strength of willpower, able just to hold them in place. And oh, please, God, not my Betty. And Alex will just kind of lean over and look as his head is kind of leaning over the side and somewhat close to the bell. And she'll whisper into Bitta's ear, Bitta, I remember how I taught you how to pump blood into your muscles to be a bit stronger.
Yes.
I do believe he needs his bell rung, and she'll point at his head and then to the bell.
Bitta gets the 2 and 2. Bitta reaches for the bell and gives it a large push. Dong! Dong! Right into Bob's head.
Bob's head just kind of caves into one side as his hands inadvertently let go of Betty, and as Jacob and Remy are down at the bottom, they hear this, "Ah!" and then just this loud crash at the bottom of the bell tower, and then another sort of the sound of basically a wet water balloon being dropped as Bob lands on his head. And the bell up the top is kind of gonging back and forth a few times before finally settling. And we'll make one more check for a Bitta here before we go back down to see what Jacob and Remy are up to.
That's another 2, right?
Yep.
Alright. Oh, I have no problem at all.
You botched!
Fuck. How did I do that?
Hello, derangement.
You just picked yourself up a derangement.
Ah!
Yay! We got a derangement! Yay!
But
No.
you literally feel no guilt about it. In fact, you're overjoyed at this point. You literally, for some reason, the humanity in you just snapped and broke, and you're elated at what you've done. You're giddy.
If I may make a suggestion, perhaps Bitta saw a beautiful pattern in the blood splatter that came out of the woman.
That could easily be done, right? And make it like a beautiful tie-dye effect of her blood on the floor with the, like, nice wood floor.
It's like a Rorschach test.
There we go.
What
Oh,
do
that'll do it. That'll F me up.
Then we cut back down to Jacob and Remy with the 4 remaining parishioners.
Yes.
I want to grab one of them by the hair and begin dragging them up to the cistern. It's time for a baptism.
Mhm.
As he
And
gets
Jacob,
into
he's just going to go outside and bound around and grab that generator and wheel it inside.
Now, Jacob, that thing is fucking huge. It's like one of the ones that you pull behind a truck on a trailer.
Oh, okay. I'm thinking like a gas power generator.
No. To cook somebody like that, that thing needs to be. It's not Home Alone 2.
All right. Sorry. All right. I'll just break one of the walls, finding a just a live wire, that's going up into the lighting of the system. Pull the wire out towards the cistern. Snap.
Do me a real quick favor before you do that. Let me just, because why not? You're fine.
You're gonna get me electrocuted.
Thinking about it.
All right. All right. Yeah. So Jacob passes Remy the wires, and there, I guess, is the person you've picked standing in the cistern, or Remy.
and Remy's going to begin spouting off some kind of French prayer. He does have language French if anybody has it. Then he's going to switch up to Spanish where he's basically blessing Santa Marta. Then he's going to drop the wires into the cistern and watch the magic happen.
Are you gonna push the person's head down in there?
I imagine it's one of those walk-in cisterns, unless it's one of the...
Nah, it's one of those whatchamacallit, it's like one of those cisterns sitting at the thing where you can get the water to cross yourself. It's enough because it's made the bowl itself is made of metal and the the water and everything, but you're probably gonna have to hold her head in place to do what you want to do.
Given the... What the hell? I'm just going to shove this fucker's head into it.
Might I suggest, and this is the one out of character thing I'll give you, might I suggest buffing your stamina up to max, generational max?
Maybe perhaps use a stick.
Actually, I got another idea. Roll 7 dice for me, Danny.
Oh shit.
As Dev 7, so tell me how many successes I got.
2.
2 arms that best pop out. My shadow won't have one wrap around this person, another one slam their head into the cistern.
Smart man. All right, as you throw this person's head down into the water, you hear the snap and the crackle and the pop, and you just, after a moment, this body twitches and rumbles, and you hear the scream, or the muffled scream from underneath the water and the bubbles, but it's all drowned out by the electrocution and the lights flickering on and off. Some of the light fixtures burst, and you begin to smell that arid smoke of ozone just before the body just kind of falls limp as the breaker unit finally kicks in and shuts that particular fuse off. And the light fixture above just goes dark, that particular light fixture anyway, and the person's body just kind of falls to one side, the brain literally being cooked in the head. There's still some twitching going on, so this person might be alive still.
If he is, it sucks for him.
Alright, last humanity check of the evening.
2.
You still feel kind of bad about what you've just done. In fact, you probably lose a taste for doing any further horrific acts for a good little while. Literally, to you, it's like what you've just done. It's like you're still too connected to your humanity for this, my friend.
It's alright, Remy. One step at a time. One step at a time.
Meanwhile, up in the top of the tower with Bitta, Alex looks down at Bitta's handiwork and smirks. And her eyes go a bit wide before she grabs Bitta by the collar, pulls her close, and plants a nice, long, and deep kiss upon her lips. And then stands back. You've done me proud, little one.
Bitta gazes deeply into Alex's eyes and says, But I have done so much, and I can only imagine what I am going to do after this.
You and I will have to talk. One-on-one. Canite to canite. And she kind of says that with a kind of a tick in the side of her face. But we'll see to it that you're properly enlightened. And with that, she'll grasp Bitta's hand and lead her back down the stairwell, seeing the 3 remaining parishioners cowering all in a corner, screaming, and looking at the shadowy form of Jacob and Remy, who I'm guessing looks a bit distraught at the moment.
You see, like, blood tears coming down his eyes. He's like, why can't I fucking carve it out? Why? He's actually going to go for his knife and begin making cuts on himself, trying to actually cut his own humanity out.
You know what? Make me a frenzy check. Difficulty, we'll say 7.
I have 3 for that.
Control.
Yeah.
You don't make it. You go into a frenzy, my good sir.
My eyes, they flash red with just a black hand around them. And my fangs have always been out. He's just been very good at hiding the fact that they've always been out. And he's going to start freaking the fuck out. Mind you, he has his knife out at this point.
Alex is going to pull Bitta behind her and actually invoke Skin of the Adder as the scales begin to form over her skin and her mouth begins to distend a bit. What about Jacob? What's Jacob doing at all this?
Jacob's still in his black metamorphosis form. He's seeing his child, he sees him starting to cut himself and, kind of losing it. He'll just whisper in his ear, pointing at the other parishioners, take it out on them, my son. Take it out on them.
And you're going to hear a fellow scream, and he's going to begin hauling ass at full speed towards his parishioners. They are fucked.
Well, I said it was the last one of the evening, but I guess not. Alright,
And,
so, Remy, what are you going to do to these 3 remaining parishioners?
I'm literally going to slice them to bits.
Okay, sure. Alright, as the last one finally, as you cut through them, just taking giant chunks of flesh out of them, painting the walls of this church, left and right, left and right, just cutting these big gashes into them. Every now and then your blade gets stuck on the bone, and you need to work it free to go at it again. After a while, you just begin to you drop the knife and begin pounding away with your fist until you're literally just basically compacting brain matter and bone into the floorboards. Finally, your senses, your beast is finally sated, and you look and you see these three individuals, the remaining ladies and the hobo, just torn to ribbons and smashed to pieces. And we'll see what happens.
This is the generation roll at this point, just to see if I go insane or not.
You, sir, lose a point of humanity.
Yay! I don't give a fuck anymore. I feel fucking great.
That was therapeutic for you, Remy.
Good work, Remy. Good work. You made your sire very proud.
Alex will just smirk as she looks at her newly formed pack and knocks the chunks of burnt flesh out of the cistern and dumps the water out, leaving just the stainless steel bowl, which she drops into place, and she ushers the other three Canaanites over. Come, my brothers and sisters, come forth.
Taking a piece of a chunk of flesh out of his long hair. This is gonna stick in his mouth and begin chewing on it.
Oh, I see somebody's enthusiastic about their little adventure tonight. Father Burns, I think this is a time of celebration, and I think it's time to make this whole group of Canaanites official. What do you think?
I think so, Miss Corbo. I am proud to say that I am seeing a new generation of bastards out before.
And with that, Alex will reach down to the hand that Bitta is holding the knife in and just very gently raise it up before holding her own wrist out over the bowl, and with Bitta's hand still held in her own, she stabs her own wrist, sending the blade right through the flesh and the bone and just dripping the blood into the cistern until it's about 1/4 of the way up.
Miss Corbo, please, I must bless the vessel first.
Oh,
Jacob will take the cistern who washed out the water, who washed out the blood with some of the water, taking out his own ritual knife, the one that's been used for the bastard's conception. Ah, blessed be our Holy Father, in the name of Cain. We are here tonight to teach you to unify us together.
close to the mic, Bruce.
Blood of Sabat. I'm sorry?
Closer to the mic.
mic.
Sorry. Where did I leave? Where did you last hear me?
We barely heard the first part, dude.
Okay. Sorry.
It's cool.
We gather here tonight
There we go.
to honor you, our Holy Father. Cain, in your eyes, in your blood, we are united. Blood of Cain, blood of the Sabbat, may you strengthen us. May we be the firm grip upon your sword. And Jacob will place his wrist first, then he'll donate a blood point. He'll pass it to the left, which is to Alex.
Alex will just hold her already bleeding wrist out over the cistern and dribble her blood in it. And she is going to have to make a manipulation and subterfuge roll here. Indeed, underneath our Dark Father, the blood of Cain makes us all strong. And that is 4 and 4, 8 dice. Nice. And I'm going to spend a willpower point on this because I don't need any fuck-ups here. Difficulty 4 with Enchanting Voice.
I told you, the gods do not lie. The dice gods. The dice gods.
Somebody screen cap this shit. Jesus fucking Christ! I have never seen so many ones.
6! 6! How did you just get 6 ones?
Vinny, I warned you. I warned you. You're not listening.
Oh,
Thank God for that willpower point.
science!
Wait, no. I am asking for a reflexive manipulation empathy roll.
Perception empathy.
Charisma empathy?
No, perception empathy.
Perception empathy. All right, give me 4 dice.
Alright, I've got 1 success. You, however, got none.
So
So you still buy it, at least, if anybody else wants to roll perception empathy.
What would that do? Perception empathy.
Perception empathy is to tell whether or not I'm lying, whether you can catch that I'm lying.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Or what's my empathy? That would give me 5 die. I'll roll.
Alright, difficulty 6.
1, 2, 3, 4,
I'm
5.
interested to see how she reacts. She only has to get a success.
I got a 9 and 7.
Yeah, it's a... Yeah, you can tell that Alex is not being fully truthful when she says the blood of Cain makes us all strong. Take that as you will. What about you, Remy?
I only have 2 dice in total. That's 1 perception, 1 empathy. Normally I don't give a crap.
Well, you seem to be able to tell that Alex is not being entirely truthful when she says the strength of the Dark Father makes us strong.
Bear in mind, I'm less than 2 weeks old, so I probably really don't care at this point.
You're still emphatic about the fact that you just murdered some people and you felt good about it.
Well, I'm also going to rob this church when we're through here.
Alex will then take the blade out of her wrist and then look to Bitta for her to see if she'll do the same as she licks her wrist and heals the wound.
Bitta grabs the knife from Alex's hand and almost looks directly into Alex's eyes, almost being able to tell the lies that had just crept out of Alex's mouth. And Bitta grabs the knife, very quietly slashes her wrist, and lets the blood flow, not saying very much.
I'm going to roll perception and empathy on our little Tory auntie right there, just to see if I can't tell what she's thinking, or if I can tell that she knows that I know that she knows. 2 and I believe that's 2 and 2. Yep. So 4 dice. Let's see here. Are you going to try and defend against that, or are you going to make it well known that you know that I know that you know?
No, I think I'd keep it to myself in all honesty.
Alright, roll your manipulation and subterfuge.
Okay, my manipulation is 3, my subterfuge is 3.
Well, I've got a success.
And...
Okay, yeah, I can't tell anything. You got 2 successes.
Right.
You beat me.
There we go, sorry.
Oh, okay.
That was a good roll.
Alex will then turn and look to Remy.
Remy will take the knife, just stick his tongue out, split it in half, and let it bleed from the tongue into the vessel.
Do you see that, Jake? Jacob, he's trying to emulate me, and with that she'll let that serpent tongue come out of her mouth just a bit.
Might be a dream.
If that's the case, Alex, then why don't you bite yours off, as my child did?
He cut his in half to give himself a forked tongue. It's really not the same thing.
I'm just
Besides,
saying.
I think I might be using his tongue later tonight.
Very well,
Okay.
that is your prerogative.
Well, there's
Remy?
other things I could have cut, but I don't think I really would have appreciated that.
Well, if I bite my own tongue off, it's going to take me a good bit of blood and a night to heal it up. If you cut your tongue, you can heal it back very easily.
That's true.
And she smirks as she then looks to Father Burns.
Father Burns returning receiving the bowl back. He will raise it up above his head, and he will say, "Blessed be the Father, in your name, one blood, one Sabbath." And he'll imbibe the first portion of the Volduri, and he'll pass it to the left to Alec.
Alex will look at the bowl and look at each of the individuals. I drink of my brothers and sisters and hope that it makes our bonds all the stronger. And she takes a nice long sip of it before handing the bowl to Bitta.
Bitta takes the bowl, says softly, I drink for my brothers and my sisters, and takes a large, deep gulp of the blood and passes it to Remy.
Ray's gonna say, well, we're all one big family, cheers. And he's gonna drink and pass the rest back to Jacob.
And in this, brothers and sisters, we rise bastards, Cain's bastards.
Alex will smirk as she takes a step back from the cistern and looks around the church, surveying the damage they've done.
Dibs on the rectory. I'm pretty sure there's an extra priest. Else if I could still
Remy,
crucifix.
if
What?
you would, turn this place over for everything it's worth. Watches, I want you to collect all the cellular phones, all the wallets, all the jewelry.
Hey, can I keep the collar? That's a cool collar.
Oh,
Take everything.
Corbin.
You
Should
want
also-
one, Jacob?
No.
Bitta, I want you to go into the offices and look for the security cameras. If they have hard drives, rip them out. If they have videotapes, pull them and bring them to me.
Bitta runs towards the back offices and flees behind the door.
That
Um,
Alex will just kind of reach out and pat Jacob on the shoulder. Well, one nice, happy fucking family, isn't it?
Ms. Cooper, may I also suggest that we take some of their IDs? You never know what information one can dig up with the social security number.
Oh, I have every plan of doing that, but we're going to get rid of the credit cards and the jewelry. Too easy to be tracked. We can plan it
can
on
you
somebody at a later point.
use where the bodies are strung out? And he's kind of into the walls, taking the cash out. Y'all want these? And he holds up the fancy rosaries.
Oh yes,
I
I'll
have
take.
no use for them.
I will definitely take one, Remy. Thank you.
Remember, if you see an extra priest suit, I want it.
Well, I do think the one I do see, and she looks over to the downed pastor, whose head is basically folded over and the back of his head resting against his spine. I think that one's a bit messed up.
I guess I'll find another one to play priest with. You'd be surprised what people tell priests.
Indeed.
Yes, indeed. You would be.
And once everything is gathered, Alex will walk to the front door. Well, I do believe this is a productive evening.
And he's like, hold on. He's going to go over to the tabernacle bus and take the chalice. We forgot something.
Thank you.
Bloody little kleptomaniac, isn't he? I like it. Bitta, come along now.
Yes, Alex. She follows behind with hard drives in hand.
Well, Alex will reach into her bag and pull out the small canister of butane and walk into the kitchen. She'll turn on the burners, all four, without letting the spark click them on, and then she'll begin to run the butane down from the front of the stove out through the hall all the way down to the front door. She'll nod to Jacob to open the door for her.
And Jacob is going to notice all of this. He's going to actually, can you just roll me a quick perception investigation roll? 6. So,
6. 2 successes.
okay. Yes, the door's going to be open for you.
And as the four of them walk out, they'll get a respectable distance back before Alex will light up her cigarette, crouch down, and place the Zippo against the butane, lighting it up, and then just turning her back, snapping it shut, and just continues to walk away through the courtyard, walking out, feeling the anticipation of what's to come. And if anything doesn't have anything else to add, I do believe we can end our scene there.
I'm good.
I'm good.
I'm good.
Church in the background. Still live. Come on. Stop broadcasting.
Come on.
It's doing it again. This thing's going to be live for hours.
Oh, snap.
Yeah, you can stop.
It's still live, yep. Alright, everybody dip.
All right, bye.
We'll meet up in a minute.
Later. See ya.